My name is Matt.
My name's Nick.
And we built this timber frame greenhouse slash barn.
We took the Shelter Institute purely post and beam course, and then we got the idea for building this timber frame greenhouse, which we've always wanted to grow food in, but we ended up actually using it as a wedding venue earlier this summer.
It was a lot to take on, but we just chipped away at it over the course of 3 months. We didn't quite get all the walls done for our wedding, but it was enough where it didn't rain that day, so it didn't really matter. The building is kind of two-faced, so on this side you have the greenhouse. One of the ways we figured out how to save a little money was to use these windows that we collected at the dump.
And you can see that we had to kind of puzzle them together to get them to fit in these walls, but we like the effect.
And on the other side it looks more like a traditional barn where we have like a wood shop.
So we added in these extra kind of, we're calling them floor beams, underneath the windows to support the weight of the windows. But because they had to land above the brackets that are fixing the post onto the concrete, we had a gap. And we just filled that in with some bricks that we got on Craigslist. They're not structural, they're just to kind of fill in.
These floor beams run all around the perimeter of the building. And on the other side, there's just rocks. But that allows airflow on the ground level, and that's good for plants, supposedly.
My favorite part of the structure is these barn doors that I built with my dad when he came over to visit for our wedding. We actually got these put up the week before the wedding, so kind of last minute.
So it's a 20 by 30 barn. This is the greenhouse space, which right now there's not much growing. We didn't have much time to get plants in the ground before the winter. This is under our loft floor. We want to build a table and have dinners in here, and this will act as a wood shop as well. We used hemlock timbers, and so we were concerned that they would be kind of shifting and drying out, and that might crack the glass, but that hasn't happened yet, and so hopefully it doesn't happen this winter.
So we did ask for the rough cut, partly for budget reasons, but because we were building a barn rather than a house, we also thought that the more kind of rustic look was more appropriate. But it was a little more challenging to work with because you're trying to measure very, very precise cuts. Hemlock is much harder than we anticipated to carve. In the Shelter Institute course, we had used some nice smooth pine that was fairly easy to work with, and then the hemlock was a bit of a shock. But we did get a chain mortiser to help us with that and a couple of other power tools.
One of the hardest things was the precision in which you need to carve them with hand tools, and then being patient. I had a tendency to just kind of try to go faster when I shouldn't have been, and you can see it's rustic, as we say. It took 2 solid months of full-time work to carve them. And then when we put up the building, we had 6 or 7 other people here, and we used just manpower to lift up the vents. Our neighbor came with a crane to help do the rafters. The day we raised the building was a really special day to have everyone helping, community effort to get this building up. So it was pretty special to just sit kind of inside without the roof on and everything else at the end of the day and just marvel at what we accomplished. We chose obviously not to insulate it. The siding we chose to do was just clapboard. Over there, we've got the corrugated plastic roof and corrugated plastic wall, and then we put some vents in on each gable end as well. In the summer, it is pretty hot up in the loft, but generally, during the year, it's pretty cold, so we welcome the heat and the warmth most of the months. Nick built these stairs.
Yeah, this was my first attempt at building some stairs, and I'm quite pleased with how they turned out. We wanted a bit of space underneath, so they're just stringers all the way up. Upstairs we have a loft which we're using as a office at the moment, although we did have some guests stay in it when they came over for our wedding. So we decided to have a loft in the half of the barn that's not being used as a greenhouse. And part of the reason was to have a little extra space, mainly for my books. I'm an English literature PhD, so I have a lot of them. So we built this wall as a bit of extra storage. We added this king post for a little extra support for some of the floor joists because I had decided to cut a hole in the floor essentially for the stairwell, and we didn't want to cut out a whole row of rafters because that would have given us a lot less space. I framed out just a little funny little shape here.
It's a 12-12 pitch, so I guess it might be more difficult than the average roof to stay up there, but when we put the strapping on, you just start at the bottom and work your way up, so it becomes a ladder. And then the corrugated plastic was pretty easy to work with, especially compared to metal. It was a lot of work for sure, but it's like so satisfying to be in it now and to have it completed.
The process of building itself with the two of us worked out really well. We work well as a team. We were very fortunate to have a few people to help us out who knew about the process of building timber frames. Just the two of us, it would have been a little bit difficult. Timber framing isn't something that you have to be very strong necessarily to do. Most of it is brain work.
Nick is the brains of the operations for sure. I just do what she tells me to do basically, and it comes out all right. I feel really confident that this building is going to be here for a long, long time. We have all the tools now and we would love to put them into use again. So I certainly think, yeah, we'll be building more in the future.